Good morning, Legacy School. This is year 7 history, our lesson 6. This lesson is made for those who missed the lesson. They were absent, they were ill, or they decided to, for some reason, to continue online. And of course, it is a good way to revise for even those who attended the lesson. So in this lesson, we will learn or revise the name of the tribes that occupy England in the Middle Ages, in the early Middle Ages. We will try to describe the map of England at that time. We will learn about the expressions Dark Ages and Middle Ages, and we will be able to give some examples how these tribes influenced life in Britain, because they influenced language, religion, and customs as well. Now, Roman Britain. Now, do you remember when the Romans invaded the British Isles? Well, so, of course, the gradual process began in 43 AD under Emperor Claudius. Then it was largely completed by 87 AD. Then Stanigate was established as the northern frontier. The Roman, or this territorial, or this country, Roman Britain, included Britannia, which is England and Wales, and parts of Caledonia, which is now Scotland. Right? Hadrian's Wall was established at the border to stop the Picts from reaching Roman Britain easily, but of course the attacks continue. Now, when did the Romans leave? The Roman rule in Britain ended in different parts of Britain in different times. Okay, of course, they started withdrawing from the north. Troops started coming down towards the south. And largely it finished by 410 AD. Of course, many Romans settled in over these years, and loads of Roman citizens were already born in Roman Britain. So loads of families stayed after the army withdrew. Why did the Romans leave? Of course, internal and external threats. The Roman Empire was crumbling into pieces. It was under siege by other nations. The Western, at least the Western Roman Empire, forces from inside wanted the power, and at the same time, external forces, other nations and other countries wanted to invade Rome as well. So this is internal, inside, and external. Other nations or other countries tried to invade Rome. So Rome had to deploy the army back in Rome, inside Rome. Now, the Roman Britain before the Romans was obviously occupied by the ancient or the original people, collectively called as Britons. Okay, we also call them ancient Britons or Celtic Britons. They spoke a so-called common Brittonic language. Now, some of the northern Britons were the Picts and the Gaels. Okay, the Scottish people are their descendants, and Scottish language is a fusion of the language of these ancient Gaelic languages. Now, from the Celtic languages, Irish, Scottish Gaelic, Breton, and Welsh are still spoken. So, if you look at the map of the United Kingdom right now, then of course you know that there are countries like England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, and only English is not an original language of the British Isles. The others are very ancient languages, and they have nothing to do with what is now modern English. They don't belong to the same family. So Celtic languages, they belong to the Celtic languages. Cornish and Manx also are smaller languages, and now people tried to, in certain areas, Cornish is spoken in Cornwall. So in these areas, people are trying to return to their roots and revive or make their language alive again. bring it to life again. Now, let's take a look at this map. Of course, this is the map of England in the 8th century, right? You can see the colors. Obviously, if you go closer, you will see that there are 4 nations mentioned over here, and the green is the green part on this map is occupied by the Britons, okay, which are the original people, and the other purple, pink, and orange color belongs to the new people of the British Isles who came after the Romans left. We call them collectively as Anglo-Saxons. They are the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. And you can also see in the north, the yellow part is the Picts, the territory of the Picts, who are basically the ancestors of the Scottish people. All right, so from this map, we understand that Germanic people arrive to England between the 5th and the 7th century, after the Romans leave, of course, and they occupied pretty much most of the territory of the English, or the Britons, I should say. Okay, so the original people are the green area, and the others are the new arriving nation, the Anglo-Saxons, which are the 3 most powerful Germanic tribes. All right, so these are the Anglo-Saxons. Okay, the 3 most powerful Germanic tribes. They came after the Romans left Britain. We collectively call them the Anglo-Saxons, and they are the ancestors of the English people. All right, and modern day English language is based on their Anglo-Saxon language. Okay, of course there were loads and loads of influences over the hundreds of years after that. All the nations that come and occupy or rule England from this time until modern times leave influences, and it changes, alters the English language, and modern English language is because of all these influences over the past few centuries. Now, we already mentioned that they arrived to Britain after 410, or they started arriving, and they were quite a powerful and fierce nation. They didn't really care about English cities and all the beautiful buildings and roads and aqueducts and Roman baths that were built by the Romans were left alone and forgotten. The Anglo-Saxons did not really care about maintaining them, rebuilding them. They were a farming nation, so they were more interested in the countryside, occupying the countryside and make a living there. All right, as we mentioned, they were quite powerful, fierce warrior nation, and quite easily took over the land, as the ancient Britons were not ready to fight or chase them out from this land anymore. All right, then let's talk a little bit about what is called Dark Ages or Middle Ages. Now, in many history books, Middle Ages basically refers to the whole period from the fall of the Western Roman Empire until the arrival of Renaissance, okay, which is another historical period. But more precisely, the Dark Ages would be the time after the Romans leave to the time of the Norman conquest, which is 1066, the Battle of Hastings. So basically between the 5th and the 11th century. Right? The word Middle Ages more likely, or in most books, refers to the time from the 5th century way up to the 15th century. And as I mentioned, the Renaissance comes after that, which is it's a historical period that did not start at the same time in every European country. It starts earliest in Italy, and when it's already Renaissance in Italy, England is still in the Middle Ages for 2 more centuries, basically. All right. At the same time, it's very important to understand that the Dark Ages, the word Dark Ages, some people just call them the whole Middle Ages Dark Ages. But if we concentrate on the first few centuries, then the first centuries are referred to as Dark Ages because we basically don't have a lot of information about this time. So we are kind of kept in the dark. Historians are kept in the dark. And at the same time, another reason why we call it Dark Ages is that there was a lot of power struggle, fighting, Viking raids, a lot of bloodshed in this time. And as the Roman Empire fell, Europe fell into a period of cultural and scientific stagnation. So Rome was the light in Europe, obviously before the empire fell. When the empire fell, there was no leadership. There was chaos. There was no power that would help people educate themselves or culturally advance the people. It was wars and internal, external struggles in most of Europe. So this is also why it's called the Dark Ages. At the same time, it is probably interesting to mention that the Middle Ages outside Europe were not dark at all. If we look at Chinese history, or if we look at the history of the Middle East, or the Arabic speaking countries, or the territory where the Arabic speaking countries are now, it shows quite a lot of progress. The Islamic world and China, with their science, medicine, and exploration, of course, they are far from being in the Dark Ages. All right, let's talk a little bit about the influences now. Of course, when another nation comes to a land, natural that the new nation and the old nation influence each other. Now, what changes and what doesn't change? Pretty much everything changes. People might start building different houses. They might start changing their daily habits. The original population acquire new habits. The new nation acquires the habits from the old nation. Languages assimilate. They change each other. Okay, one nation might take the religious beliefs of the other one, or the two religions create a fusion. Everything is possible, of course. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the Anglo-Saxons were a farming nation and warriors, and they didn't build baths and roads and cities, and they lived in the countryside and gradually changed a lot in the habits of the Britons. Now, of course, we don't have a lot of information about this time. As we mentioned earlier, there are no history books. There are no written documents. But there's a very famous historical or archaeological site called Sutton Hoo. It's in East Anglia, and loads of artifacts were found here at this archaeological site, which gives us a picture about a medieval Anglo-Saxon village and the lifestyle of Anglo-Saxons. So the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms were very powerful kingdoms, and each of them had a king. Sometimes an overlord was more powerful than the others. And one of these kingdoms was the kingdom of East Anglia. The others, you could go back to the map and you will see Wessex, Sussex, Mercia, Northumbria, and so on. The kingdom of East Anglia was one of these kingdoms. And Sutton Hoo was a burial site within the kingdom of East Anglia. And historians, archaeologists found amazingly beautiful weapons, shoulder clasps, belt buckles, and golden purse lids, small harp, silver plates and spoons. that gave us a picture about how advanced their craftsmanship was. All right, you can see in the picture in the bottom corner, the left-hand side, you can see a face shield, which is the most important discovery at this burial site. It's very, very intricate. The carvings on this shield, or on this face shield, tell us about the craftsmanship. All right, some Anglo-Saxon words. Of course, when a nation comes to another nation or another land, influence their everyday life. Of course, the word England, because obviously languages start mixing with each other and blending. The word England comes from Anglo-land, so Anglo-Saxons already influenced England for a lifetime. East Anglia is where the Angles landed, okay? Wessex, Sussex is the home of the Saxons, so West Saxonia, or south, the south of the Saxons. Norfolk and Suffolk, folk means people, so a lot of words go back to original Anglo-Saxon words. Words or place names that have Ham, Witch, Don, and Ton also refer to Anglo-Saxon words. Ham is a village, so if you check out the modern map, you will see Fakenham, Framlingham, Sheringham. These are place names right now in modern day England. Norwich, Ipswich, Huntingdon, Basildon, Harleston, Northampton are all place names that go back to Anglo-Saxon origin. The other thing is obviously the religion is very important. The Anglo-Saxons were pagans, they were not Christians, and they believed in many different gods, and certain gods, Anglo-Saxon gods, live in the names of our days. Wednesday was named after Woden, the king of the gods. Thursday was named after Thor. Okay, Tuesday is still god of war. Friday was named after Freya, the goddess of love. And Easter, the holiday Easter, was named after the goddess of rebirth. And the word Yule is an old word. We use it as a synonym for Christmas. It is the Anglo-Saxon festival called this way, Yule. It's also celebrated in the winter, and now we use it as a synonym for Christmas. All right, so for those who were not attending the lesson, please take notes from the slides into your copybook, read pages 6 and 7, and then answer questions on page 7 into your copybook. Thank you. Bye-bye.